हेलो दोस्तों, एक बार फिर से स्वागत है आपका मेरे यूट्यूब चैनल एक्स मुस्लिम रिवर्स हलाल काफिर में। तो आज का वीडियो होने वाला है हमेशा की तरह बड़ा मज़ेदार। तो वीडियो को लाइक शेयर सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें। और बात करें वीडियो की, तो ये एक एक्स मुस्लिम की कहानी है जो पाकिस्तानी न्यूज़ चैनल में काम करते थे और उन्होंने भी इस्लाम छोड़ दिया है। तो आइए जानते हैं इनकी इंटरेस्टिंग कहानी। मैं मिलता हूँ वीडियो के लास्ट में।
So today we have with us a very dynamic, young and handsome Murtad apostate Aladdin with us on our channel. Welcome to our channel, apostate Aladdin.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. आप कैसे हो?
Arey wow,
No, I'm messing with you. I do not understand
that's
the
so
language,
good.
but yeah, no, thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be here. And as you've told the audience, of course, I speak English as a second language, Arabic as a first language, so it's difficult for me to follow some of your videos or the comments, but I'm looking forward to this opportunity to get to know you better.
That's good. So first of all, what you ask, आप कैसे हो? That means how are you? So
Yeah.
I'd like to answer. मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ, चंगा हूँ, मस्त हूँ. Apostate Aladdin, since English is also not my first language, I do understand English. I can speak English, but since this is not my first language, and possible that I may not be able to comprehend some of the things which you may say. So for my help, I have one more person who is joining with us. He'll be with us only when I ask him, what exactly you said, which I did not understand. That time he'll help me. I hope it's fine with you.
Sure, yeah, that's fine by me.
Okay. हुज्जतुल काफिरीन साहब, बहुत बहुत इस्तकबाल है आपका. अनम्यूट कर ले.
थैंक यू साहिल भाई, जब भी आपको आवश्यकता होगी आप मुझे बोलिए.
थैंक यू सो मच. थैंक यू सो मच हुज्जतुल काफिरीन साहब फॉर ज्वाइनिंग. नॉटी राजेश साहब और कुंगफुंग पांडा साहब, आप लोग अभी छोड़ दीजिए. हुज्जतुल काफिरीन साहब मेरे साथ है. अच्छा हुज्जतुल काफिरीन साहब, अगर मुझे नहीं समझेगा ना, तब मैं आपको बोल दूंगा, तो आप मुझे बता देना फिर. ठीक है?
श्योर. कूल.
Okay. So, Apostate Aladdin, once again, welcome to our channel. And I would request all my viewers who are watching now to subscribe to Apostate Aladdin's channel. He's doing a very great job. And the best thing about him is Arabic is his first language. Okay. So, no mullah, no maulvi, no mumin can trick him on the meaning of the verses of Quran. वी हैव ऑलरेडी सीन, हमने सबने देखा है कि बहुत से बार जो मुल्ला मौलवी हजरात होते हैं वो किस तरीके से हेरा फेरी करते हैं माने में, मीनिंग में. तो जो अरेबिक जिसकी फर्स्ट लैंग्वेज होती है, उनके लिए ये इशू नहीं होता. उनके सामने ये चालाकी नहीं चल सकती है. उनको कॉन्टेक्स्ट और वहां पे क्या लिखा है, उस वर्ड का क्या मतलब है, उनको बहुत अच्छे से पता होता है. ठीक है. अच्छा, एक चीज ये यार, देख रहे हैं सब लोग, जरा वीडियो को लाइक और शेयर कर दे. और अपोस्टेट अलादीन के चैनल को भी शेयर कर ले आप लोग, ताकि आप जैसे इससे पहले जितने एक्स मुस्लिम्स आए हमने उनको प्रमोट किया, एंड दे गॉट अ वेरी गुड सब्सक्राइबर बेस थ्रू आवर चैनल. जैसे लास्ट टाइम पे अवेज भाई आए थे, उनके कुछ 11,000 सब्सक्राइबर हो गए 6,000 से. सो ही गॉट सम 5,000 सब्सक्राइबर फ्रॉम आवर चैनल. Similarly, Apostate Aladdin has come to our channel, and
Wait, I want to make something clear before people go and subscribe. I would actually advise them to wait wait till the end of the conversation and see if they would like to subscribe before going now, because I just want to make sure that they understand where I'm coming from, and they do to some extent want to see more of that before they decide to follow.
That's so kind of you, Apostate Aladdin. Thank you so much. Okay. अच्छा, कोई लिंक पूछ रहा है तो भाई पिन कमेंट में लिंक आपको मिल जाएगा अपोस्टेट अलादीन का, वहां से आप सब्सक्राइब कर सकते हैं. सो अपोस्टेट अलादीन, द वेरी फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन टू यू, टेल अस समथिंग अबाउट योरसेल्फ, in the sense, how was your family, how you were raised, what is your qualification in if you want to share with that, and especially how much you learned about Islam, and till the time you were in Islam, what was your life, how was your life?
So I'll try to answer some of these questions, but feel free to highlight a specific question if I forget it. So I want to emphasize that I think throughout my journey as an ex-Muslim YouTuber, what has been more important to me, that I think gives more value to my channel, even more important than my understanding of the Arabic language, which is important, is my intention and ability to listen to people I disagree with. And I think that has gotten me much further than just my understanding of the Arabic language. But to answer your question about my background, I am from an Arabic speaking background. I'm from an Arab country. I don't specify which one for safety reasons, of course. But I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I grew up surrounded by Islam. I learned Islam from a very young age because my family cared about the religion, and so did I. I don't have any special qualifications to criticize Islam per se, but I don't think that anyone needs special qualifications to criticize Islam. I think, or to have a discussion about it. I think that I was in a unique position to be able to soak in the religion for many of my formative years and live through it.
Apostate Aladdin,
Yeah.
is it okay if I interrupt you in between? So, let me tell you one thing. All our audience, all our viewers are, not English speaking
Sure.
viewers. So what I'll do, whatever you say, I'll try to also summarize that, in short, what you're
Mhm.
trying to tell the people so that even they can comprehend what you're telling. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, for them to listen to you. So, I'll stop you in between and I'll summarize to them what you are telling. भाई लोग, अपोस्टेट अलादीन भाई कह रहे हैं कि वो सऊदी अरेबिया में पले बड़े हैं, और सऊदी अरेबिया में रहते हुए उनके जो फैमिली वाले थे वो चाहते थे कि ये रिलीजियस रहे, इस्लाम को फॉलो करे, तो उस हिसाब से उनकी टीचिंग हुई है। ये कह रहे हैं कि इनका कोई मदरसे से ऐसा कोई डिग्री नहीं है इस्लाम को क्रिटिसाइज करने के लिए, लेकिन साथ में ये भी कह रहे हैं ये कि इस्लाम को क्रिटिसाइज करने के लिए या इस्लाम को समझने के लिए आपको कोई ऐसी फॉर्मल एजुकेशन की जरूरत नहीं है। जितना आप उसको समझते हो और पढ़ते हो उतना ज्यादा आपको उसके बारे में पता चलता है। यस अलादीन, प्लीज गो अहेड।
Sure. Yeah. So as I was saying, I grew up with Islam in my life as a very important part of my life. So even though from a very young age I had questions and critical thoughts about the religion, they weren't doubts at the time because I couldn't conceive, I couldn't think that it would be possible for Islam to not be true. As someone who grew up surrounded by it, it was my entire life. So it did cause me a lot of confusion and internal conflict. But it was later in my early 20s that's when I started to really dig into the religion, and eventually I left it when I realized that it is possible for the religion to not be true. So even though I had doubts from a very young age, it took me a long time to look into them to make sure that I am not misled by some, by shaitan or by someone who's trying to make up things about Islam. So it took me a long time to get to where I am today.
ओह दैट्स ग्रेट। ये कह रहे हैं कि भाई बचपन से ही यानी बहुत यंग एज से इन्होंने इस्लाम का मुताला शुरू किया और इनको काफी सारे डाउट्स भी आते थे, और यहाँ तक इनकी जो जर्नी है पहुंचने के लिए उसमें काफी वक्त लगा है। ठीक है। Aladdin, my question to you is, were you offering, I mean, how seriously you are taking religion? Because, if you're following Islam, you have to offer prayer, salah, 5 times in a day. So, were you that religious that you were offering 5 times salah on time when you were Muslim?
When I was a Muslim, things fluctuated. I tried to stay on 5 prayers a day, and that was my ideal. And in my family, that was what was expected. There were phases in my life where I would not pray on time and maybe pray at the end of the day, or maybe skip prayers for a day, for like half of the prayers for a day because I was busy with school, and then feel very guilty about it. But it was always very important in my life. So even when I wasn't praying every prayer on time, I felt the need to be praying every prayer on time.
So that guilt feeling was always there whenever you used to miss the prayer on time, and you used to, do it on the later part of the day.
Yeah, I mean, that was ideally what I would do, is pray it on time, but if I can't, then pray it later in the day. But there were times in my life where I didn't catch up to these prayers, and it felt like a huge debt that I eventually would have to pay. So I was always terrified of dying before I can pay off my debt of all the prayers that I didn't pray.
This is the problem with all religious Muslims. They have the fear of, punishment in Barh, Qabr, and, after that in Akhirah. Allah will ask you, take account of all the prayers which you have missed. So that fear is with most of the Muslims who follow Islam and who are religious, right?
I mean, I try to not say things very confidently, to say that I know most Muslims think one way or another, but I can imagine that most people who are religious, most Muslims who are religious, will have the fear of hell, of course. And if you don't pray on time, you are closer to going to hell. So it makes sense that most religious people are very afraid of what could happen if they don't follow Islam.
Can you tell us what is the reason behind this? I mean, why people are so afraid if something goes like they are not able to offer the salah? What is the reason why they are so afraid? What do you think about that? Is it because of the scholars who have put this, or is it because this is how it has been designed by the Prophet? What do you think about this?
I don't know, to this very day. I don't think anyone can know what the Prophet intended, or if he actually said all of these things, or if he was just a man who said some of these things and then he died and then other people came after him and added to his words. I have no way of telling any of that, but I know that the way that Islam is taught and the way that it's not just because of how sheikhs teach it or imams teach it to people. Some of the material, like some of the hadiths, they terrify people of missing prayers, and they terrify people of the idea of hell. And I think it makes sense. If you believe in heaven and hell, and you believe in Islam, and you believe that the Prophet said certain things, I think it makes perfect sense that you'd be terrified of hell. And if anything, I feel for those people, because I used to be one of them. And even if I didn't used to be one of them, I still feel empathy for them. So I understand why Muslims are terrified of hell, or a lot of Muslims are terrified of hell.
Okay. So this is what your feeling was, and you had the feeling of fear for not offering salah on time. Then what made you think about seeing Islam critically, and what were your thoughts and what you understood from that, and what were the reasons, how it started, and the stage you are, what happened exactly?
So there were so many things that seemed suspicious or didn't make sense from a very young age as I was learning about Islam. But like I said, I didn't consider that these things could possibly be wrong. I just thought that I am not understanding it properly. But the thing that really stuck with me from a very young age was how the idea that people who don't believe in Islam are going to hell. They won't be tested on whether or not they're a good person before they go to hell. If they've heard of Islam properly and they don't accept it, they're not convinced by it, then they deserve to be punished. And that never sat right with me, because even from a very young age, I was able to conceive, to understand, to hypothesize that maybe someone might not be convinced of Islam, not because they're a bad person, but they're just not convinced. And Islam doesn't leave much room for people who are not convinced. Islam makes it seem as if, or at least the way that I was taught Islam, and the way that I still, the way that I see that fatwas are today, Islam does not accept that someone can be an honest person or a sincere person and hear about Islam and read about it and not accept it. And that doesn't make sense to me. And I also had issues with the idea of predestination and free will. How can Allah write everything that will happen and determine it and know about it, and also people have free will at the same time? And God knows that most people are going to hell. Most people are not Muslims. So I had issues with a lot of these larger picture questions that did not fit within the Islamic narrative itself. How can Allah be wise and merciful, but also be so vindictive? So yeah, that was just the beginning of it.
If I talk to you on behalf of Muslim, the issue that you had, the understanding of free will and destination. So Muslims say that, because we do discussions with Muslims every week. So if we bring this kind of issues, they say that it's not that Allah has written something and what He has written we are doing. They say that Allah was knowing that we will do this, and that's the reason He has written this. So how you'll answer this question to them?
Sure. So it depends. There are Muslims who actually believe that Allah wrote things down and determined them to happen that way. There's some precedent in the hadith for that being the way that it's happening. But even if we ignore that, if it's just about Allah knowing what's going to happen, not determining it, then first of all, then Allah has no control over what happens in that case, because God is just observing what is about to happen outside of His control, which I don't think makes sense. But also, even if it's just knowledge about what will happen in the future, I think God would have more empathy and understanding, especially if He knows the results of this test. If He knows that most humans on earth are going to hell, and he knew that before creating humanity, and he knew what to do to avoid that, then it doesn't make any sense that a merciful and wise God would actually do that. So that's how it works in my head. And again, I'm open to the possibility of it being wrong and Allah being real at the end of the day. But I think that Allah would understand this confusion and would understand why someone might not be convinced by the arguments. And there's no room for that in Islam.
ओके, हुज्जतुल काफरीन साहब, अगर मैं थोड़ा समराइज कर देता हूं, अगर मैंने कुछ मिस कर दिया तो आप ऐड कर देना।
श्योर, ठीक है सर।
अच्छा, ये अपोस्टेट अलादीन साहब को जो मेजर डाउट आया था वो फ्री विल और तकदीर का जो मसला था, इन्होंने उस बारे में सोचा, तो इनको ऐसा लगता है कि यार अगर मतलब ये एक कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन जैसा है कि आपकी किस्मत तकदीर लिख भी दी गई है और फिर ये भी कहा जाए कि आपको फ्री विल है, तो इनके नजदीक ये कह रहे हैं कि ये सेंस नहीं बनाता है। तो मैंने इनको पूछा कि भाई, अगर आप एक मुसलमान अगर इनसे बात करे तो वो ऐसे जवाब देगा कि अल्लाह ने लिखा, इस वजह से मुसलमान नहीं कर रहे, बल्कि सॉरी, इंसान नहीं कर रहे, बल्कि अल्लाह को मालूम था कि इंसान ऐसा ऐसा करने वाला है, ऐसा ऐसा होने वाला है, इस वजह से अल्लाह ने चूंकि उसको पता था, उसकी नॉलेज में था, इस वजह से उसने ये चीज लिखी। ये मैंने इनसे सवाल किया, तो ये कह रहे कि फिर भी ये सेंस नहीं बनाता कि इंसानियत को लाने से पहले, इंसानों को बनाने से पहले, अगर अल्लाह को पहले ही पता था कि उसके बंदे जो है, अक्सरियत, मेजॉरिटी जो इंसान है वो जहन्नम में जाने वाले, उसको ऑलरेडी पता था, और उसके बावजूद भी वो दुनिया बना रहा है और उसको सही करने के लिए कुछ कर नहीं रहा है, तो इनके नजदीक ये सेंस नहीं बनाता। ये इनके नजदीक जो है वो एक इलॉजिकल चीज है। हुज्जतुल काफरीन साहब, और कुछ इसमें ऐड करना है?
सर, मैं सिर्फ एक चीज ऐड करना चाहूंगा। उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि कोई भी भगवान इतना असंवेदनशील नहीं हो सकता है कि बिना किसी को जज किए सीधे दोजख में डाल दे। और उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि यदि इस्लाम का भगवान एग्जिस्ट करता भी है, तो उसमें इतनी संवेदनशीलता ज़रूर होगी कि यदि वो मरने के बाद उनके पास जाता है, तो वो उनसे कन्विंस हुआ कि वो उनकी बात मान लेगा कि जो लोग इस्लाम में नहीं आए थे, उनके वो इस्लाम से कन्विंस नहीं होंगे। तो उन्होंने एट द एंड ऑफ द डे उन्होंने एक विंडो छोड़ा है, यदि इस्लाम का खुदा होगा भी हाइपोथेटिकली, तो उसमें इतनी संवेदना होगी कि वो जो कुफार के जो डिस आर्ग्यूमेंट्स है वो उसको भी स्वीकार कर ले।
हाँ, बट Aladdin, the room that you have left, that maybe even if Allah exists, He will listen to your argument. But is that option available for Muslims? I mean, does Islam give this option that Allah will listen to your argument why you not accepted Him, associated partners with Him, since they did not find it logical? Is there any room for this for Muslims or human in Islam, that they can argue with Allah, this is the reason why I did not accepted Islam? Because as far as I know Islam, you do not have such kind of option. You have to accept oneness of Allah. You have to accept the prophethood and messengership of Prophet Muhammad. Is there any room as per you? And what basis you have that?
No, the way that I understand it, I don't think in the Islamic narrative there is a scenario where I could explain things to Allah and then He would change His mind. I think there might be scenarios where Islam describes people like me as pleading to God and saying, I wish I did things differently and I please forgive me. But I don't think it ever describes a situation like what I'm describing. But the way I think of it is, for me, it's inevitable. And for many people like me, it's inevitable. Because once I have the realization that Islam doesn't make sense to me, if I were to pretend that Islam made sense to me, if I were to pretend to pray and do all of these things just in case Allah is real, then Allah will not be tricked by that. Allah knows what's in my heart. So at the end of the day, I will be punished because of what's in my heart, which is what I'm telling you right now. So why not be just honest about it? Even if I meet Allah, I will tell Him exactly what I'm telling you right now, and He would already know what's on my mind. So there's no way for me to pretend. Allah hates munafiqeen, right? Allah hates hypocrites. So I can't pretend to believe just to appease a God that may exist.
Okay. हुज्जतुल काफरीन साहब, जरा इसका ट्रांसलेट करें। अच्छा, जो लोग कह रहे हैं कि उनकी इंग्लिश जो है इंडियन जैसी है, भाई, लेकिन यहाँ पे बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग हैं जिनको इंग्लिश ही नहीं आती है, तो थोड़ा सा सबर हौसला रखो यार। उन तो वो भी समझने के लिए देख रहे हैं ना कि जो बाहर के लोग हैं उनका दिमाग किस तरीके से काम करता है इस्लाम को लेके, है ना। आप लोग तो समझ जाओगे जिनको इंग्लिश आती है, लेकिन जिनको नहीं आती उनके लिए फिर फिर उनका देखना ही ये स्ट्रीम बनता ही नहीं है ना। तो थोड़ा इसी वजह से हम लोग सिर्फ समराइज कर रहे हैं ताकि शॉर्ट में ये जो कहना चाह रहे वो बात आ जाए। अमित साहब, आपको कुछ ऐड करना था क्या?
नहीं, बाहर के लोग नहीं यार, भाई इंडियंस भी मोस्टली हिंदी नहीं समझ सॉरी इंग्लिश नहीं समझ पाते हैं, और अपोस्टेट अलादीन की इंग्लिश माशाल्लाह बेहतरीन है, इंडियन इसमें एक्सेंट में ही है, पर भाई लोगों थोड़ा सा सब्र करो, ट्रांसलेट करने दीजिए।
हाँ, और वैसे भी हम सिर्फ समरी दे रहे हैं, एग्जैक्ट जो है पूरा का पूरा नहीं कर रहे, ताकि ज्यादा वक्त जो है इसमें ना लगे। जी, हुज्जतुल काफरीन साहब,
अच्छा,
इन्होंने जो
एक आपने पीछे ट्रांसलेशन में गलती कर दी थी साहिल भाई, इन्होंने अरब से बोला था, सऊदी अरेबिया बोल रहे थे, तो सऊदी अरेबिया
नहीं
नहीं, अरब से है।
नहीं, उन्होंने बोला था सऊदी अरेबिया में वो पले बड़े हैं, वो एग्जैक्ट लोकेशन नहीं बताना चाहते कि वो कहाँ पैदा हुए थे, लेकिन सऊदी अरेबिया में उनका काफी वक्त गुजरा, ऐसा कहा था उन्होंने।
ओके,
राइट ना हुज्जतुल काफरीन साहब?
जी, जी, बिल्कुल।
जी। अच्छा, अभी जो उन्होंने कहा हुज्जतुल काफरीन साहब, फटाफट समरी दे दे हमारे दर्शकों को, फिर आगे बढ़ते हैं।
उन्होंने ये कहा है कि जितना तक उन्होंने इस्लाम को समझा है, तो बेसिकली कुफ़ार जब जाएँगे, तो इस्लाम ये क्या उनके अंडरस्टैंडिंग के हिसाब से वो गिड़गिड़ाएँगे अल्लाह के सामने कि माफ़ कर दो फलाना-टिमकाना। और फिर ये उन्होंने फर्दर ये भी कहा कि यदि हर चीज़ प्रीडेस्टिन्ड है कि मैं धरती पर अल्लाह के आर्गुमेंट्स को नहीं मानूँगा, तो वो यही चीज़ जाकर के अल्लाह के सामने भी बोलेंगे, जो बात ऑलरेडी अल्लाह को मालूम रहेगी बिकॉज़ ऑफ दिस लॉजिक ऑफ प्रीडेस्टिनेशन। सो एट द एंड ऑफ द डे दिस थिंग डज़न्ट मेक सेंस, और इस्लाम में इसके लिए कोई खास जगह नहीं है।
जी, thank you. So one issue, the major issue was with predestination and free will, apostate Aladdin. So apart from that, what were the major problems you have seen in Islam before leaving Islam?
So that was one of the issues. I, I could get into specifics, but what I think mattered more than the specific instances of certain battles, for example, where the Prophet and his Sahaba were too brutal. Aside from these examples, or the Prophet's marriage to a child and certain scandals like these, even if you push all of these aside, it was mostly the realization that if I were to introduce this religion to a non-Muslim, or if I wanted to convert someone or convert myself, how would I go about doing that? And I tried to reach out to so many Muslims, some friends, some sheikhs, and just try to understand, why do they believe? How can I distill that into kind of like a sales pitch? Like, if I were to introduce someone to Islam, what would I tell them to convince them? And I realized that there's nothing inherently that convincing about Islam, or nothing that proves Islam in the way that it should be proven. There's nothing that's worthy of punishment and torture to that extent. Allah didn't make a good case for himself. So if I were to try to introduce someone who's not a Muslim, even as a Muslim, I realized they're totally within their right not to believe me, and I don't even blame them. And I don't think it makes sense that they should be tortured for that. And I realized that a lot of the arguments that Muslims used when I wasn't even arguing with them, but when I was trying to understand from them why they believe or what makes Islam true, a lot of what they were saying applied to other religions as well, or it was the same kind of thinking that believers of other religions have used, including religions that Muslims consider polytheistic. So it wasn't just about the idea of monotheism. So it made me realize that people believing what they believe has nothing to do with how good of a person they are, or at least it's not just about how good of a person they are, maybe not at all. It's about where they were born, it's about their situation, it's about their life circumstances, and the fact that Islam is practically a game of it's based on geography. Where you were born determines what religion you have, for the most part. It doesn't make any sense that that's the criteria that God uses to judge people. So, like I said, there are many specific suspicious instances in Islam of things that Muhammad did wrong. But if you're a Muslim, you can dismiss any of them. But that wasn't the main issue for me.
हुज्जतुल काफरीन साहब,
इन्होंने ये कहा कि जैसे इन्होंने सहाबा की जो खूंखार जंगे के बारे में जाना, तो इनके अंदर एक द्वंद पैदा हुआ कि यदि मैं किसी गैर मुसलमान को इस्लाम की दावत देता हूँ, तो मैं उसके सामने क्या केस रखूंगा? बिकॉज़ एक खूंखार जंग में देयर इज़ नथिंग गुड टू इनवाइट समवन टू द रिलिजन। फिर उन्होंने जब इसके बारे में लोगों से जानने की कोशिश भी की, तब फिर उनके पास भी कुछ खास आर्गुमेंट नहीं था। उसके बाद उन्होंने ये कहा कि अल्लाह ने इस्लाम के पर्सपेक्टिव से अपना केस अच्छा नहीं रखा है, दैट इज़ दीन इस्लाम में ऐसी कुछ अच्छी बात नहीं डाली है, जिसकी वजह से ये गैर मुसलमान के पास जाए और उनको दीन की दावत दे। और उनका लास्ट स्टेटमेंट ये था कि इस्लाम में बहुत सारी चीजें सस्पिशियस है विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू द हॉली प्रॉफिट, और यदि आप इस चीज पर क्वेश्चन करते हो तो आप ऑटोमेटिकली इस्लाम से खारिज हो जाते हो।
Okay. Please go ahead, Apostate Aladdin.
Yeah, I think that was most of it. I can't remember anymore what the question was.
Okay. So if I ask you specifically about Quran, since you are, Arabic is your first language. When you read Quran, the entire Quran, what is your thought about Quran, the language, and can it be something from the God if He exists? What is your thought about Quran? How you take it?
So I learned Quran from a very young age. I didn't memorize the whole Quran, but I memorized a big amount of it. And I remember that the standard Arabic that we use today and the Arabic dialects in the country that I'm from and other countries is a bit different than how the Quran is written. So it is written in an older style. It is written in a way that people don't speak today. So even Arabs don't quite understand the Quran when they read it for the first time. And there's a lot of context missing. It doesn't read like a book where if you start to finish, you could just start reading and you'd know what the author is talking about. The author would switch the topics. It would switch the tense. He might be addressing Muhammad and then he's addressing all the Muslims without making it clear. It's very messy and put together in such a messy way. But I didn't accept any of that as a child. I just saw Arabic words sang in a certain way and I had to memorize them in a certain way. And even when I noticed something that looked like could be a grammatical mistake or a grammatical oddity that didn't conform to what I expected Arabic would look like, I would be told that Allah uses this grammatical exception for emphasis or something like that. So Arabic was built on the Quran. So there's no way that a Muslim can say the Quran is mistaken grammatically in this part or that part, because they're basing Arabic on the Quran and they make a lot of exceptions for the Quran specifically. But I always thought that there was something special about the Quran because I was told that it was special from a very young age. But frankly, I can see a lot of things in the Quran that could be written better, could be written simpler, could be written more elegantly and with less room for misinterpretation. And I don't think that the way that the Quran is written is proof that it is divine.
So are you trying to say that being an Arabic speaker, you're trying to tell us that there are many things in Quran which are not grammatically correct, but the Muslims, they are taking it as an exception and they are trying to show that, since it is spoken by Allah, you need to consider it as right. Are you trying to say that?
I know there's several instances of that in the Quran, yes.
Can you give some example?
I can't recall at the moment off the top of my head.
Hmm.
So what I care more about, like, it wasn't just that there were grammatical mistakes. That part, I can ignore that part altogether. It was that the book could be written better. There are many things that even Muslims argue among themselves today about what they mean, that if I just add one word or remove one word, it would make a lot more sense. Or if I give a little bit more context, it would make more sense. But the Quran on its own is not enough. Like, Muslims with the Quran alone cannot be Muslims. Most of it doesn't make sense if you don't have the backstory, if you don't have the hadith, the seerah, and all the opinions of all the sheikhs. On its own, it doesn't hold up. But and I know that a lot of people say that there's a linguistic miracle, that the Quran is written in such a beautiful, linguistically miraculous way. I think it's written in a unique way that we don't see very often except in old poetry and prose. And just because nobody has written a book that big with the same style doesn't mean that this one is special because it's in that style. And I like to remind people, if the proof for Islam is that the Quran is linguistically miraculous, then that proof only works for a very small percentage of Muslims, because most Muslims are not Arabic speakers and most humans on earth are not Arabic speakers. So it doesn't make any sense for God to have the proof for his religion only be possibly understood subjectively by a fraction of the population of the earth.
Okay. हुज्जतुल काफिरीन साहब, थोड़ा सा समराइज कर दे.
इन्होंने बेसिकली ये कहा कि कुरान किसी विशेष भाषा शैली में नहीं लिखी है। भाषा शैली में विशेष ये है कि जिस किस्म की जो पुरानी शायरी लिखी जाती है, कुरान उसी में लिखी है, लेकिन वो भी कुरान को यूनिक नहीं बनाती है, क्योंकि आपके पास पुरानी बहुत सारी कविताएँ और शायरी हैं, ऑलरेडी एग्ज़िस्ट करती हैं। उसके बावजूद भी कुरान जिस भाषा में लिखी है, वो भाषा एक स्पेसिफिक फ्रैक्शन ऑफ वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन बोलती है। सो इट डज़न्ट मेक सेंस कि जो जिसने कुरान लिखी है, वो एक स्पेसिफिक परसेंटेज ऑफ पॉपुलेशन की भाषा में कुरान लिख रहा है।
हाँ, वो ये कहना चाह रहे थे कि भाई अल्लाह को ये एक तरीका कौन सा अपने आप को सही करने का, साबित करने का था कि वो कुछ लोग जो अरबी बोलते हैं उनके लिए दे। तो ये कह रहे कि ये इट डजंट मेक सेंस, ये कोई कोई एक्स्ट्रा ऑर्डिनरी बात नहीं है कुरान को एक्सेप्ट करने के लिए कि खुदा की तरफ से है। इसके अलावा इन्होंने ये भी कहा कि भाई जब मैंने इनसे पूछा कि कुरान जब आपने पूरा पढ़ा तो उसके बारे में आपकी क्या राय है, तो ये कहते हैं कि कुरान में जो है ना कोई सेंस नहीं बनता है। अल्लाह कभी एक चीज बताता है, फिर इमीडिएटली जो है वो स्विच करके किसी और तरफ चला जाता है, फिर उसके बाद किसी तीसरी जगह पे चले जाता है। यानी उसका कोई कॉन्टेक्स्ट नहीं है, और जब तक आप अलग अलग तफसीर नहीं पढ़े, आप हदीसों का मुताला नहीं करे, कुरान आपके लिए सेंस बनाएगा ही नहीं। और यही चीज हम हमेशा से कहते हैं कि कुरान से बड़ी एम्बिगुअस किताब दुनिया में कोई हो ही नहीं सकती। इसमें तो खुद उलमा कंफ्यूज है। आप सोचो कि एक ही आयत को लेके जो है वो एक आलिम कुछ अलग बोलेगा, दूसरा आलिम कुछ अलग बोलेगा, एक की इंटरप्रिटेशन कुछ अलग रहेगी, दूसरे की इंटरप्रिटेशन अलग रहेगी, क्योंकि कुरान को अल्लाह ने आसान भाषा में लिखा ही नहीं, ना उसको एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट दिया कि एक आम इंसान अगर उसको पढ़े तो उसको समझ में आए कि भाई ऑथर बोलना क्या चाह रहा है। तो ये सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम इस्लाम का है। Apostate Aladdin, next question to you is, have you seen different versions of Quran? Because we have done stream where we have shown people there are different versions of Quran. People like Zakir Naik and other scholars previously used to tell, I don't know about Arabs, but in India and especially Hindi and Urdu speaking people, they used to tell that no word of Quran has changed, not even a letter. If you go from India to America to any part of the world, the Quran is same. But later on, many people shown to others that there are different versions of Quran. Mostly what we are reading in India, Pakistan and other parts are that is the Hafs Quran. Then you have verse, then you have Qalun, then you have some other this and that. What is your thought about that?
So this is a topic that I'm not an expert on this topic by any means, but I'll give you my thoughts anyway. There are different versions of the Quran in the sense that they're called ahruf and qira'at. They're different books that, like you mentioned, the Hafs version. There's Warsh. There's other ones. There are minor differences. I mean, when sheikhs say that there's not a difference of a letter, that's not true. There are differences of letters and words sometimes. And those sheikhs argue that the differences are not significant enough to be considered different, meaning that the meaning is the same, whether you read it this way or that way, or you write it one way or another. I think there are examples where the meaning changed. Like there's I can't remember the specific verse or the versions, but one would say qatilu, one would say iqtulu, which is fight versus kill. And I would consider that to be different. But all of that pales to the, I mean, you could push all of that aside when you think about how we don't even know what the original Quran looked like, if anything at all. I mean, we have hadiths about how there were other verses and surahs that are no longer in the Quran now. Hadiths about how people said, we used to read this verse differently than we do now. That's in the days of the Prophet. So we have no idea how the Quran was when the Prophet died. It wasn't even fully compiled. All we have is, like, the oldest version of the Quran is not even close to Muhammad's death. So to say that the Quran is very well preserved, even if it were, which it doesn't seem to be, but even if it were preserved letter for letter, it doesn't prove anything. This is, it's as if these sheikhs or the promoters of the religion, they select one criteria where Islam excels. They select this criteria being how many people memorized it, the Quran, and how little variation there is in the copies of it. And then they use that criteria as proof. But if you were to assess any other religion or any other text in any context, you would never say, just because it has not been changed in 1,000, 2,000 years means that it is from God. That is not a criteria for divinity.
True. हुजैतुल काफिन साहब, थोड़ा सा समराइज कर दे इसको.
इन्होंने बेसिकली ये कहा कि जब इन्होंने शेखों से बात की, तो शेख ने ये माना कि कुरान के वर्जन्स में थोड़ा बहुत डिफरेंसेस हैं, बट वो इस बात पर बल देते रहे कि थोड़ा बहुत ही डिफरेंसेस हैं। लेकिन इनका ओपिनियन ये है कि वो थोड़ा बहुत डिफरेंसेस नहीं है, बल्कि डिफरेंसेस इतने ज़्यादा हैं कि कुरान का मतलब ही बदल जाता है। फिर उन्होंने फाइट और किल वाला एग्ज़ाम्पल दिया। फिर उन्होंने ये कहा कि कि इससे सिग्निफिकेंट प्रॉब्लम ये आती कि अब ये नहीं पता है कि पैगंबर साहब के ज़माने में कौन-सा कुरान रिवील हुआ था। फिर उन्होंने ये आर्गुमेंट दिया कि यदि मान भी लेते हैं कि इसमें कुछ चेंजेस नहीं हुए हैं, तो इससे साबित भी कुछ नहीं होता है। इस्लाम इज़ नॉट प्रूफ बिकॉज़ ऑफ दिस। फिर उन्होंने फर्दर ये बात बोली कि जब ये दूसरे मज़हबों को आँकते हैं, तब फिर वो बताते हैं कि इतना-इतना सारा डिफरेंसेस हैं, लेकिन कुरान में सिर्फ़ इतना माइनर डिफरेंसेस हैं, फिर भी इस्लाम का अल्लाह इससे साबित नहीं होता है।
एग्जैक्टली कि वो अगर ये कहना चाह रहे हैं कि वो अगर प्रिजर्व भी है तो भी इससे ये साबित नहीं होता है कि वो अल्लाह का कुरान है। यानी कोई चीज को आप प्रिजर्व करके रख लो तो उससे ये थोड़ी ना साबित हो गया कि वो खुदा की तरफ से। जैसा मम्मी, एक मैं एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ, मम्मी को प्रिजर्व करके रखा गया कितने सालों से, तो क्या इसका क्या मतलब हो गया खुदा है या अल्लाह ने किया? तो किसी चीज को पहली बात तो प्रिजर्व है ही नहीं। इन्होंने ये भी कहा कि भाई वो जो हमको सबसे पुराना जो कॉपी मिलता है वो भी मोहम्मद साहब के मौत के कई बाद का मिलता है। लेकिन अगर उसको थोड़े देर के लिए छोड़ भी दे और ये मान भी ले, हालांकि उसमें डिफरेंसेस भी है, उन्होंने जैसे कि काफरीन भाई ने बताया, वर्ड्स का डिफरेंस है, लेटर्स का डिफरेंस है, उसके बाद लेटर्स मिसिंग है, तो उसमें तो एक ये हो जाता है कि भाई अल्लाह ने क्या बोला था। इन्होंने जो लिखा वो तो अलग है, अल्लाह ने क्या बोला था, लेकिन अल्लाह ने जो बोला था वो तो एक ही बात बोली होगी ना। क्या वो 7 अलग अलग तरीके से अल्लाह बोल रहा था, या 30 वर्जन जो है वो अलग अलग तरीके से अल्लाह बोल रहा था? ये भी एकदम पहली बात तो इलॉजिकल बात है कि अल्लाह किस तरीके से बोल रहा था। अल्लाह तो एक ही बार बोला होगा जिब्राइल को, कि जिब्राइल ने आके उसको 7 वो दे दिया, भाई नहीं ये ले, इस तरीके से भी ले, उस तरीके से भी ले। ऐसा नहीं होता, ये इलॉजिकल है। लेकिन ये कह रहे हैं कि थोड़ी देर के लिए उसको हम छोड़ भी दे और मान भी ले कि इस कुरान को प्रिजर्व किया गया, उसकी प्रिजर्वेशन हुई यहां तक लाने में, तो उससे ये साबित नहीं होता कि ये का कलाम है या कोई ऑलमाइटी गॉड का कलाम है। अपोस्टल अलादीन, the next
Wait,
question.
before we move on to the next question, do you mind if I ask you a few questions about your journey out of the faith?
Yes, yes, yes. So is it okay if we complete your story and then you can ask me whatever you want to ask, so that
Sure.
we have that flow? I
Sure.
have only 2-3 questions remaining for you.
Okay, if 2-3 questions, that's fine. Yeah.
So apostate Aladdin is more interested in knowing my journey because since our channel is not in English, and he tried watching our videos but he was not able to comprehend what we are saying. And possibly he's seeing that our channel is growing and lots of people are watching us live. He is interested in knowing what we are telling, why I left Islam, especially someone from India. So I'll definitely fulfill his क्या कहेंगे, will बोलेंगे ना, your choice. So the next question to you is, what you think about the character of Prophet Muhammad when you read Quran and when you read Hadith, when you read Tafsir? What is your thought about on his character?
So again, I'll try to answer this question in as nuanced of a way as I can, because I don't want to simply say I think he's a good man or I think he's a bad man. I think it depends on it depends on many things. First of all, what did Muhammad say or do? That is not clear. Some hadiths, some Muslims take some hadiths, they don't take other hadiths. It depends on which ones you believe are actually him. And for me, there's no way to verify that any of them were actually him. And then secondly, it depends on what was the situation like. What would the average person do in that situation? What is the best that would be expected from him in that situation? So that makes it very difficult to assess him as a man and say he's good or bad. But I can certainly say that the measure that the benchmark or the goal that Muslims are trying to prove or trying to compare against is perfection. So the important question is, does Muhammad seem to me like a perfect role model? I don't think he does, because there are many situations that, despite the times being different, despite it being 1400 years ago, Muhammad could have done things better. And I could have done things better in that situation. I mean, I'm saying that with hindsight now, But if I can conceive of a way that Muhammad could have behaved better, then Allah would also have seen that way. For example, the obvious classic example is his marriage to a child. The bigger problem than the marriage itself is how it allowed so many other people in the future, so many young women to be, or young girls to be harmed by similar marriages, and the justification being that Muhammad did it. If Muhammad was the perfect man and he knew what was going to happen in the future, or Allah knew what was going to happen in the future, he would have advised him, maybe, don't marry this one, or wait till she's a bit older, or something else. But this is the classic example that everyone cites. But there are other examples from the Quran, not from the Hadith, or mostly from the Quran, like the time where one of Muhammad's older wives, Sauda, was afraid that he would leave her because he was paying too much attention to Aisha, because he was, enamored by his young wife, which is problematic. And she offered to give him some of her rights, like her night with him, because Muhammad spent one night with every one of his wives. She offered to give her night away so that he can spend it with Aisha. And as a human being, it's very sad to hear how a desperate woman is telling her husband, you can go sleep with your younger wife, just please don't kick me out. And his reaction wasn't to say, I am sorry that you feel this way, because Muhammad, let's remember that Muslims say you have to be fair to all of your wives. That is one of the conditions. And if Muhammad was being fair to all of his wives, she would not have sensed that he likes Aisha more than her. But he always said that he likes Aisha more than her. So instead of telling her, I'm sorry that you feel this way, and I'm sorry that I made you feel this way, and I will change my behavior, he says, yes, I will take your offer. And then he makes it into a verse where he tells people, tells women, if you're afraid that your husband's going to leave you, it's okay to give up some of your rights. He could have behaved better in that situation. I don't think that's the perfect husband. And that's just one of many, many examples. So to summarize the answer, I will not judge him and say that he was a good person or a bad person, but I can easily say, for the purposes of assessment of whether or not he is a perfect person, he was definitely not a perfect person.
That's great. उज्जैदुल गाफरीन साहब थोड़ा सा समराइज कर दे.
इन्होंने ये कहा कि मोहम्मद साहब के बारे में आप एक सिंपल यस और नो या सही या गलत नहीं बोल सकते हैं. उन्होंने कहा कि वो इसका एक ज्यादा विस्तृत आंसर देंगे. उन्होंने कहा कि मोहम्मद साहब को समझने के लिए जैसे ही हदीस पे जाते हैं, तो हदीस मोहम्मद साहब पर बहुत ही कंफ्लिक्टिंग व्यूज देता है, लेकिन वो फिर भी मोहम्मद साहब को इस बात पे जज करना चाहते हैं कि वेदर ही इज अ गुड रोल मॉडल और नॉट, बिकॉज मुसलमान जो है वो खुद को परफेक्ट करना चाहते हैं. फिर उन्होंने कहा कि मोहम्मद साहब हैज नॉट डन अ गुड जॉब. उन्होंने एक अच्छा काम नहीं किया है एज अ रोल मॉडल के लिए, क्योंकि यदि वो खुद मतलब अपोस्टेट अलादीन साहब वहां पे खुद होते तो वो उनसे ज्यादा अच्छे एक्शन कर सकते थे. तो उन्होंने एज अ रोल मॉडल एक अच्छा एक्शन नहीं किया है इनके हिसाब से. फिर उन्होंने उसके दो एग्जाम्पल दिए. पहला एग्जाम्पल था अम्मी आयशा के साथ जो उनका बाल विवाह हुआ था. फिर वो जाते हैं बीबी सौदा के पास कि भाई कि बीबी सौदा को जब ये खौफ आया कि मोहम्मद साहब मुझे छोड़ देंगे, तो उन्होंने अपने कुछ राइट्स सरेंडर कर दिए. इन्होंने फिर एक बहुत ही न्यूएंस टॉपिक रेस किया था विक्टिम शेमिंग का, कि मोहम्मद साहब ने उस प्रकरण को ऐसे प्रस्तुत किया कि भाई मैं तुम पर उपकार कर रहा हूं कि यार मैं तुझे छोड़ नहीं रहा हूं. और यहाँ पर जो विक्टिम थी बीबी सौदा, शी वाज एक्चुअली फेल्ट ग्रेटिफाइड कि यार कम से कम ये मुझे छोड़ नहीं रहा है, क्योंकि मैंने अपने कुछ राइट्स एज अ वाइफ मैंने सरेंडर कर दिए. फिर उन्होंने कहा कि ये दोनों एग्जाम्पल खतरनाक इसलिए हैं क्योंकि आगे जाकर के प्रेसिडेंट सेट करते हैं. बाल विवाह का भी मतलब एक छोटी उम्र की एक बच्ची का शादी एक बहुत ही बड़े बाबा के साथ कराने का, और इसका भी कि आप कैसे एक वाइफ को कोर्स कर सकते हैं इन फ्यूचर टू अपनी बात मनवाने के लिए.
बिल्कुल, बल्कि इन्होंने ये भी कहा है कि भाई रसूलुल्लाह ने हर वक्त पिंकी को ज्यादा क्या कहते हैं उसको, क्या कौन सा वर्ड यार अपन यूज करते हैं, ज्यादा अहमियत दी, पिंकी से ज्यादा प्यार करते थे, क्योंकि वो छोटी उम्र की थी पिंकी. तो और रसूलुल्लाह उनको पिंकी बोलना पसंद करते थे. पिंकी मतलब ऐसा इंग्लिश में पिंकी नहीं बोलते थे, हुमैरा कहते थे उसको. तो एक मौलवी का मैं रील देख रहा था, तो उन्होंने कहा कि पिंकी का सॉरी हुमैरा जो है उसका अगर आप ट्रांसलेशन करो तो वो पिंकी होता है. तो रसूलुल्लाह जो है वो पिंकी को ज्यादा पसंद करते थे. और हजरत सौदा जो है वो बूढ़ी थी और हट्टी कट्टी थी वो. और हजरत सौदा के साथ क्या क्या हुआ आप सबको मालूम है, हमने यहाँ कई बार कवर किया है. तो जब हजरत सौदा को जब ये खौफ हुआ कि भाई रसूलुल्लाह मुझे तलाक दे देंगे, तो उन्होंने रसूलुल्लाह से कहा कि मैं अपना जो रात का वक्त है, रसूलुल्लाह हर रात जो है अलग अलग वाइफ के साथ रहते थे, उनको टाइम देते थे, हर एक रात एक एक के लिए फिक्स थी। तो उन्होंने कहा कि मैं अपना वक्त दे देती हूँ, आप पिंकी के साथ रहो। तो रसूलुल्लाह ने, अलादीन साहब ये कह रहे हैं कि रसूलुल्लाह को यहाँ पे एहसास नहीं हुआ कि भाई मेरी वाइफ ये शिकायत मेरे सामने ला रही है, यानी उसको इस बात का खौफ है कि ये मुझे तलाक दे देंगे। उन्होंने ये नहीं सोचा कि चलो मैं सौदा को कह देता हूँ कि ठीक है, अगर आपको ऐसा लग रहा है तो मैं मेरी बात जो है आपको गलत लगी है तो मैं इसको वापस लेता हूँ, मैं आपको भी वक्त दूंगा। क्योंकि सबसे पहली चीज जो है आपको, जो इस्लाम कहता है वो ये है कि हर राइट देना है आपको, हर एक वाइफ को। तो वहां पे उन्होंने वो नहीं किया, बल्कि ऑफर एक्सेप्ट कर लिया सौदा का। तो ये कहना चाह रहे हैं कि उनकी मोहब्बत सबसे ज्यादा जो है वो पिंकी जी के साथ थी। तो ये एक बेस्ट रोल मॉडल तो नहीं हो सकते, मैं उनको सही या गलत नहीं कहूंगा, कैरेक्टर वाइज मैं जज नहीं करूंगा, लेकिन ये कह रहे हैं कि मैं होता तो बेहतर इसे कर सकता था। मेरे लिए रसूलुल्लाह जो है वो एक बेस्ट रोल मॉडल नहीं हो सकते। थैंक यू सो मच अपोस्टेट अलादीन। What is the message that you want to give to the Muslims who are listening to us?
So it's hard to summarize it.
A
Right.
short message,
Mhm.
what you expect from Muslims?
Oh, that's a different question. So I'll start with the message that I hope to give to Muslims is to hear us out. Try to have conversations with people who don't believe and try to understand why they don't believe, and then try to explain to them why you believe. Because I think that a lot of conflict happens because we're not listening to each other. And that's what I try to do on my channel. I have call-in live streams every week, and I focus less on debating people because I feel like debating doesn't help me and doesn't help some of my audience in the way that I want it to. I already have my conclusions. I don't need to change the other person's conclusions. I think there's more value in trying to understand why people believe and why people don't believe. So my message to Muslims is, if you actually want to understand, then try to listen to some of us who want to tell you why we don't believe, and try to listen with an open mind. And I promise them the same thing, that I am listening to them with an open mind. And that's what I hope to achieve. One of the things that I hope to achieve with my channel is to have better representation for ex-Muslims than just what we look like in conversations that are debates. I think we will have better representation if we start talking to each other like humans instead of trying to win a fight against each other.
Great. प्रिंस साहब, इन्होंने जो मैसेज दिया है मोमिनों को जरा वो भी बता दे, ताकि जितने मोमिन हजरात हमको सुन रहे हैं वो इनकी बात को समझ सके, जिनको इंग्लिश नहीं आती है।
जी जी बिल्कुल। सो उन्होंने ये कहा, मोमिनों से ये कहा कि भाई आप पहले खुले दिमाग से हमारी बात समझने की कोशिश कीजिए कि हम क्यों इस्लाम से डिसएग्री करते हैं, और फिर आप खुले दिमाग से ये भी सोचिए कि आप इस्लाम को क्यों एक्सेप्ट करते हैं। ये दोनों चीजें जरूरी हैं। फिर उन्होंने ये कहा कि उनका जो फोकस है वो डिबेट पर नहीं है, रादर वो कॉन्वर्जेशन पर है। वो समझना चाहते हैं कि मोमिन हजरात के दिमागों में क्या चल रहा है, और वो ये भी कहना चाह रहे हैं कि आप हमको समझिए कि हम इस्लाम से डिसएग्री क्यों करते हैं, क्योंकि जब तक हम इंसानों की तरह एक मुहज़्ज़ब तरीके से एक दूसरे से जब तक बात नहीं करेंगे, हम किसी कंक्लूजन तक नहीं पहुंच पाएंगे।
बहुत जबरदस्त, बहुत जबरदस्त। सो थैंक यू सो मच अपोस्टेट अलादीन, accepting our invitation and speaking to us. We are thankful to you. Now it's your turn. You wanted to know something from me. Please go ahead.
Sure, and I appreciate the chance for us to talk. It's been a long time that I've received a lot of comments and messages, people telling me you have to speak to ex-Muslim Sahil, and I haven't done it for a while. I haven't reached out to you because I was busy with other things, but now I felt like it was the right time to try to learn more about your perspective. We had a very short chat before this private chat where you told me that what happened to you was you were criticizing Islam, and then you were doxxed. Your identity was leaked by Muslims that you know, and then you got on the news because of that, and you were in a lot of danger because of your identity being leaked, and that has affected your life very much. So I would like to know a little bit more about that. First of all, what motivated you to first start talking about Islam before your identity was leaked?
Okay, so the reason why I started my channel is you need to go before that. That I was a practicing Muslim. I used to offer salah, and apart from that, I was also inviting people to Islam. I was having conversation with non-Muslims, Hindus, Christians when I was working in office, call center. So I was doing that because I was listening more to Dr. Zakir Naik. So, the I wanted to invite people because Allah says there's one verse, invite people to the way of the Lord. What is that verse? Uh, "Udu ila sabili rabbika bil hikma wal mau'izatil hasana wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan."
Mhm.
So it was my duty that I understood Islam. I have accepted Islam. Then it's my duty to tell others, non-Muslims, that what is Islam. Since if they do not understand Islam, they do not accept Islam, they'll go to hell finally. So I was doing that. But later on, when I critically analyze Islam from out of the Islam, when I analyze it out of coming out of Islam, then I understood there are many problems in Islam. Everything, the philosophical things that Islam says about the life, for me, everything was illogical. And apart from that, when I saw the character of Prophet Muhammad, and which was told to us before, that was very different. The main reason for me to leave Islam was, as you said, the marriage of Prophet Muhammad with a small girl, Aisha. He married her at the age of 6, and he consummated the marriage. He had intercourse with her when she was only 9. So for me, a best role model and a role model till the day of judgment. It's not only for that period. See, if he was a role model only for that period, then maybe we can give some scope, or we can give some room that it's okay. That time maybe it was a normal thing. People were marrying small children. But since he is a role model till the day of judgment, how can we accept him as a perfect role model in our life? And as you said, many people marry small children in different parts of world, quoting Prophet Muhammad that he did. So even we are allowed. So that was one of the thing. Then secondly, the concept of slavery, that was very wrong to me. How a person who is a prophet, who is a role model, making someone slave and then having sex with the female slaves, and even they were selling them in the market. So for me, this was very wrong. It cannot be human. So how a role model, a prophet, a messenger who is sent from God, selected by God, can do such kind of thing? So that was other thing. Then apart from that, the concept of test, Allah has sent people to test whether they are good or bad, that was very illogical to me. Then uh, the concept of punishment, that if you do not accept the divinity of God, and not only divinity of God, you cannot associate partners with God. So if you do shirk, if you associate partners with Allah, and even if you do all the good things in the world, still you will go to Jahannam, and you will be burnt forever. So that was very illogical for me. And on the other side, if you are a Muslim, if you have Iman, you do everything. You rape someone, you kill someone. There are two options. Allah can forgive you without punishing you, or Allah can punish you for your wrongdoings, and at the end you will go to Jannah because you had Iman. So this was very illogical to me. How a merciful God can do such kind of thing? So these were the things which I thought it's not right. It cannot be from God, and that's the reason I left Islam. So after leaving Islam, uh, my family come to know about this, that I have left Islam. So there were a lot of problem in my family. Till that time, I had no intention to open my channel. Then after 1 year, I thought, like, when I was in Islam, I was a Muslim and I was preaching others to come to Islam. Now I understood the reality, and I know what Islam is, and it's not good for humanity. It's not good for the world. Why should I not open a channel, YouTube channel, make use of social media platform, and tell people that this is the real Islam. And my main intention was to engage with Muslims and show them that this is the real Islam. This is what your scholars are not telling you. They are not giving you the perspective why this is wrong, why child marriage is wrong, why slavery is wrong, why the concept of punishment or test is wrong. So that was my intention. So with that intention, I opened my channel, but everyone knows that if you come openly, even in India, it's Pakistan or the Arab country, you cannot do that. But in India also, you cannot openly come and tell people that this is the problem with Islam and this is the problem with Prophet Muhammad. Everyone knows that. So that's the reason I came without my face. I started my channel. I started doing live stream. I started having discussion with Muslims. So my channel started growing. We used to have some starting when I started my live stream, it was only 30, 40 people watching me live. Then, uh, the channel started growing. We had 100, 200, 500, 600, 700, 1000, 1500 live viewers watching our discussion because we were only discussing with Muslims and not anyone else. So I also had a group when I was Muslim, wherein we had people who were also like me, telling about Islam to others, inviting others to Islam. So they were active on YouTube. So one of my friend who was from this Dawa gang, Dawa group, he identified my voice, and then he started, checking my activities, at what time I am free, what time I'm going to home, whether this is the same person. When they understood I am the one who is running this channel, they started leaking, they started telling to everyone that, this guy is doing this thing, this guy is talking against Islam. So this is how my identity got leaked. Everyone, they shown my face, they shown where I stay, they shown what I did, where I was working, they shown everything to, everyone that this is the guy. So after that, I stopped my channel for some period. Then again I started the channel. Then I got invitation from a news channel to come to their show and have a discussion with Islamic scholars. So my first appearance on national news channel was on India TV. Crores of people watched that live, and on their YouTube channel, crore one at least. I think some 10 million people watched that show, and from that my channel started growing more, and finally I'm here with more than 5 lakh subscribers. And one more thing I would like to tell you is that my channel is also banned in India now. So this Muslim organization, they are trying very hard to stop me. They requested the government to ban my channel, and my channel is blocked now. Still,
Mm.
whenever I go live, I also have one of my friend who is also ex-Muslim. His name is Adam. I don't know whether you heard him
Of course,
or
yeah.
you heard about him. So he has English channel also. So we both do the streams together. Tuesday, Friday on my channel, and Saturday on Adam's channel. We do the stream together. So even after ban, when we go live, the average live viewership of our stream or video is around 6,500. In fact, the maximum live viewership on my channel was 23,400.
Wow, that is a large number.
So
Um,
basically, this is how the transition has happened.
mhm. Well, thank you for sharing that backstory, and I'm sorry that your information got leaked. I can imagine that it must not have been easy to deal with the backlash of that. And I'm glad that you are safe today. I yeah, I can't imagine being in that situation, so I have a lot of empathy for you as well. It sounds like you were coming at this from I mean, I'm assuming here that you started to inform Muslims about what you found in their religion, that you think their imams aren't telling them. Um, why did you want to do that? Was it about informing the Muslims about this, or informing everyone else as well?
Okay. So, as I said, it was the first thing is to inform Muslims that this is the real Islam. And apart from that, it is also for non-Muslims to know what exactly is Islam, because the Dawa gang is very active in India. Lot of conversion happening in India. People like Zakir Naik and, there are a lot of Islamic organizations who go to people and do the makeup of Islam, and they present Islam to them, stating that Islam is the only true religion you have to accept. So it's not only about telling the real Islam to Muslims, but also to non-Muslims, so that they know what exactly is Islam. And in case if someone comes and give dawah to the non-Muslim, and if they have seen our channel, we are 100% sure they will never go to Islam. So it's for everyone, Muslims as well as non-Muslims.
So, how effective do you think your channel and your approach in general has been in informing Muslims? Or how effective has it been? As in, do Muslims accept what you say? Does it help them in any way, or do you find more opposition than acceptance?
Yes. So we have got a very good result. Since you cannot comprehend our channel, what is happening, it's in Hindi Urdu language. If you see my videos, we have so many ex-Muslim stories. People started watching our channel. They used to, give bad words to us in the start when they saw that we are criticizing Islam. Then they continue watching our channel. Then they see what we say, because whatever we say, we keep it on the screen, we show the references, and then we keep the argument. And the best part is we give opportunity to Muslims as well, that this is the reference, this is what our argument is. You have all the rights to counter, to refute us. So Muslims, they are watching that, what is going on here, whose side is better, whose arguments are better. Lot of people, they have left Islam watching our channel. We have a lot of stories. Every stream, or I'll say most of this stream, we have one new ex-Muslim coming on our channel and sharing the testimony that we watched your channel and this is what happened to us. We understood, we rechecked, because everything is available online, and they say that we left Islam. We have lots of stories on our channel. Then we also have non-Muslims who were, who got the dawah from Muslims that to accept Islam. But when they watched our channel, they understood that they are giving false dawah, they are telling false thing. They also left Islam, or they did not accept Islam. So we have a very good result.
Okay. And I imagine that when you were a Muslim, did you face any mistreatment because of being a Muslim?
To be honest, no. One thing that I faced, I'll tell you, and that is not because I was a Muslim. When I was working in corporate, my beard was till my chest. Okay. And I was in a corporate, and I was into client servicing department. I was a client account manager. So I was dealing with clients. Okay. So there was one IGP internal job posting for the post of team leader, or I think associate manager. When I went there, they did not select me because I had a big beard. So that was not because of Islam, but because of the presentation and the job profile that I was into. Apart from that, I'll tell you, if you do not know the scenario of India, Muslims are living very freely. In fact, in fact, they ensure that they get the things what they want. So they have so much power in India. Muslims are very safe. Yes, you may see some incidents where some of the Muslims might have been lynched or killed, but that is very rare. That does not represent the entire India. In
Well, I
India,
yeah.
Muslims are, I think, have more rights than they have rights in different countries. I'll give one example to you. Okay, do you have any idea about Tablighi Jamaat?
I've heard of that before. It's a form of da'wah, basically, right?
Yeah. So there is one Tablighi Jamaat which has started from India. In Saudi Arabia, they have banned Tablighi Jamaat. Okay, they have banned Tablighi Jamaat. But in India, Tablighi Jamaat is very free to do the Tabligh. They were involved, they were found involved in so many scandals, but they are still not banned. In Saudi Arabia, you cannot pray namaz, you cannot offer salah on the road outside mosque. But in India, no one will question you. You can see many Muslims offering a prayer on the beach, in the train, outside the mosque, on the road. They are very free in India. They do everything.
I well, here's something that I've heard again, because I don't understand the conversations that you have on your channel. So I heard this from someone else, from one of our or several of our mutual viewers, about how you've had people on your show, people who are okay with things like lynching mobs and things of that nature. Um, do you think that there is a movement that is pro violence against Muslims, and do you think that are you aware of that movement at all in your following or anywhere else in the spaces where you interact?
See, this is a propaganda against Indians. This is a propaganda against Indians. We do not, what do you say? We do not support any kind of violence against anyone, be it Muslim or non-Muslim or anyone else. We believe in humanity. Anyone who is against humanity, we do not support that. We condemn that. That's the reason. Before you asked me anything, I told you that you might have heard certain incidents, where the Muslims are lynched, but it has been shown to the world out of proportion. You can see lynching of non-Muslims as well done by Muslims in India. So these are rare incidents, and we say that is wrong. We don't support that kind of thing.
Okay.
In fact,
Mhm.
in fact, people who had very hard feeling for Muslims, that these guys are very bad, when they started watching our channel, when they saw our argument, when we told them, Muslims are the first victim of Islam, their thinking has totally changed. Now they see them as victims, as patients, and they want that, they should be educated about Islam. So we don't support any violence against anyone.
Uh,
And if
um,
someone is doing that, we condemn
mhm.
that. We find it wrong.
Yeah. Like I said, again, I don't speak the language, so all I have is secondhand accounts. But I remember hearing something about a man called Tufail, um, something about his involvement with lynching of Muslims for eating beef. Um, do you think that something like that is inconceivable to happen, or that it only happens in very small amounts, or that it doesn't happen at all?
Okay, so as you said, the name of the person that you said, he is one of a supporter, my friend. He's
Mhm.
like my friend, my elder. So first thing, he is not involved in any lynching. Okay. Yes, I'll tell you one thing. In India, for most of the people, cow is something very holy to them. Okay. So if someone says that, if you kill cow, we'll do something or I'll do something, that doesn't mean that literally they will go and kill someone. Okay. So I know him personally. He is not that sort of guy. He might have given some certain statements, and the statements can be, in anger, and these kind of statements can be heard from anyone. That doesn't mean the person will go and kill someone.
Do you feel the same way about angry statements made by Muslims?
No, for Muslims, we very well know that if they hear anything about Prophet Muhammad, you can say anything about Allah. They are still okay with that. But if you say anything about Prophet, against Prophet, yes, they can go and kill someone. We have a lot of cases. We have, examples of people getting beaten, killed in the name of, in the honor of Prophet Muhammad.
Oh,
So,
I'm very aware of that. I've actually made videos about that myself, and it's something as you can tell, I'm wearing a mask for similar reasons. Because even if I'm not worried about immediately my physical safety, I know that I could be in danger for this, as you were in danger. I
right.
understand. But don't you think that it's similar if someone says that uh, people who find cows to be holy might make certain insinuations or threats, but they don't actually mean them? One
Okay.
could say similar things about Muhammad, right?
Yeah, I'll answer that. See, there's a huge difference between the both. Okay. There may be people, or there are some people, fraction of people, who might be doing this. So as I said, we condemn that. Okay. But the major difference between the both is their religion, their books, their scriptures does not tell that if someone says anything to cow or kill cow, go and kill them. On the other hand side, since you know Islam very well, and since I know Islam very well, we know that this killing, the teaching of killing, is coming from the scripture, from the religion. So there is a huge difference.
But I mean, I hear where you're coming from. I don't know enough about Hindu scriptures to know if there's any command to harm people who eat beef. I imagine there isn't. So I want to believe you on that. But do you think that it's like the person that I mentioned, Tufail, do you think that you can excuse someone like him for making charged statements that could be interpreted as hateful or threatening?
Yes, I think he should avoid or he should think before giving such statements. I totally agree with you, but his intention, I told you that he's not that kind of guy. He has not killed anyone. There are many slaughters happening, but he has not gone to anyone and killed anyone. Yes, I totally agree with you that being
I
a
mean,
public leader,
you've seen that video of Ali Dawah, right, where he says that he would execute ex-Muslims if the Sharia law was applied, and he's proud of that. But I
Yeah.
imagine he hasn't killed anyone, as far as we know. But would you extend the same,
See, Ali Dawah
courtesy?
may not kill, but the people who are listening to Ali Dawah and who have been taught from the childhood that we cannot listen anything against Prophet, they can kill others. So, as I said, you need to understand there is a huge difference between both.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're the same situations. And again, I have to defer to you knowing a little bit more about this stuff, because you live in India. You are surrounded by people of other faiths, including Hindus. I am not. So all I have is secondhand accounts and reportings by other people. It's not that I think it's an identical situation, but I think that there might be maybe a blind spot to people using hateful speech or threats if they're not Muslim. And I
Yes,
want to
they
make
should.
sure, yeah.
See, anyone who is doing that, we are against that. As I said earlier,
Mm.
we do not support any kind of violence against anyone, be it Muslim or a non-Muslim. We have constitution, we have law of the land. If someone is doing anything which is a criminal offense, we have authorities to deal with it. So individuals, they do not have any right to, take law in their hand, and we do not support anything like that, be it anyone.
Yeah, I'm glad we
And we
agree
do
on
not
that.
support
And
any such statements given by
Mm.
anyone.
yeah. So I'm wondering, how has the way that Muslims have treated you, how has that affected your journey with this channel? So when you first started doing this, before you were doxxed, and then afterwards, how has the treatment of Muslims towards you changed how you view them and how you discuss this topic, if at all?
See, we see a lot of different type of Muslims coming here. Some are giving threats, some are giving bad words, and who come and talk to us normally. So we have variety of people. We have people who want to kill me, and we also have people who want to speak to me. So there are different varieties of people coming here and talking to us. But yes, I cannot roam openly. I cannot do this activism openly, because that 1% who wants to kill me, it's a good number. So even if 99% does not want to kill me, the 1% is a very big number.
Mhm. Yeah, I really empathize with you. I can't imagine, especially in India, a country with so many people, a small fraction, like you said, translates to a lot of people. So it's hard to feel safe in that environment. So I'm sorry that you have to go through that.
In fact, you can imagine apostate Aladdin. Just imagine from this thing. Just try to understand from this thing. I am in India. Okay. Majority of people are Hindus. Okay. And different faith. Just imagine we have freedom of speech, right? I am in India with majority of Hindus, but still my channel is banned in India. My mobile number has been blocked. I am in India. So
Mhm.
just imagine how powerful the Muslims are in India.
No, I'm well aware of that, and I know that even in the UK, there are instances of, for example, a movie that is a bit too Shia in its retelling of the story of the Prophet's, one of the Prophet's relatives, that could get removed from the theaters because Muslims have protested. So I know that even if the law protects you, sometimes, or often, the angry mob will then still get their way one way or another. I'm aware of that. And I'm wondering if that has affected how you interact with Muslims. Has it affected how you speak with them, or how patient you are with them, or has it been the same since the beginning?
I didn't get your question. Can you please repeat?
Sure. So the way that you had conversations with Muslims before,
Hmm.
you were doxxed, and then today, has it changed? And if
No,
yes,
no, no,
then
no,
how?
no. See, my intention, my way is very simple. I want to talk to Muslim respectfully. Okay. But sometimes what happens is, as I said, we get different varieties of Muslims. Okay. So sometimes we get such a Muslim who is so irritating, so irritating, so irritating, who does not want to speak with references. On that point of time, yes, we lose our patience, and I get a little bit angry, irritated, and I may use wrong words. But apart from that, any Muslim who comes here, who talks with references, who talks without giving bad words, we try our best to be patient with them, to listen to them, and talk to them. So for me, it's same from beginning till now.